What's up, everybody? This is Alex Christopher, and today we're going to be looking at a Tucker Carlson video where he talks about a University of Wisconsin professor calling to indoctrinate kindergarten kids on the dangers of toxic masculinity. Now, Tucker Carlson has his liberal sherpa, as he calls her, Cathy Areu, on the show. And she explains why it's correct for this professor, this University of Wisconsin professor, to try and indoctrinate kids so that they learn about the dangers of toxic masculinity. She goes off to say that women, if they had power, would be a lot gentler, kinder, bring peace and love to the world. Very much like Hillary Clinton did in Libya or Syria, or how Madeleine Albright brought peace and love to Serbia when she was bombing it for 75 days. And so in the video, Tucker decides to bring things back to planet Earth by discussing toxic masculinity and the University of Wisconsin's initiative to indoctrinate children with Dr. Jordan Peterson. Needless to say, Peterson injects some facts, some statistics, some science back into the conversation and into the narrative. Take a look at the video, guys. If you like it, click on the subscribe button down below. Also, click on the notifications bell to get notifications every time we push out a new video. And remember to go to the Duran shop, pick up a shirt, help support the Duran. Until next time, take care.
Well, spending millions of dollars fighting something called toxic masculinity in colleges somehow, remarkably, hasn't made this country much better, and yet some want to triple down on that idea. At the University of Wisconsin at Madison, one professor said we need specialized training against toxic masculinity beginning as early as kindergarten. Only when 6-year-olds are taught about, quote, intersectionality and the complexity of masculinity identities will we be truly free. Do you believe that? Cathy Areu is the founding publisher of Catalina magazine. Of course, she's our liberal sherpa, and she joins us tonight. Cathy, how do you think, if you were to take a 5-year-old and talk about the intersectionality of masculine identity, how do you think the 5-year-old would respond?
I think you would talk to the 5-year-old in ways that the 5-year-old could understand. So you would talk about courtesy, politeness, being equal to others, not being aggressive. Boys will be boys. I mean, we've all heard that. Little boys have heard that. That's not going to fly anymore. Right. The future thinkers, leaders of America are going to be in a matriarchal society, not little patriarchs. They're not going to be full of toxic masculinity. It's going to be more of a natural masculinity. So we'll have less crime, less violence. Yeah, it'll be a better place to live if little thinkers of tomorrow will be better people. Should we have
less? So boys can't be boys, but girls can be girls?
Yes, girls can be girls because girls are not the violent ones in our society. I mean, boys grow up to be men and they commit 3 times more violent crime than women. I mean, it's just a fact. So girls are doing it right. So girls are growing up right. Boys are not.
Do you think, and you've lived in this world for a while now, the people who come up with ideas like this are literally the unhappiest people in the world? Wouldn't you say that's true? The fewest healthy relationships, the most damaged relationships with their own fathers. Isn't this an outgrowth of their deep unhappiness as people?
Well, there was a woman that wrote against DDT, the pesticide that was killing insects and pests, but also killing birds and bees.
Rachel Carlson, yes.
Right. So, I mean, so was she unhappy because she didn't like that birds were no longer singing? Or was she saying that we had all these toxins? Yeah, they were helping the crops, but they were killing nature. So it's the same concept. Let's kill toxic masculinity. Let's kill this DDT in our boys. Yeah.
DDT is a man-made chemical.
Right.
Testosterone is naturally occurring.
Yes, but
so
testosterone shouldn't lead to murder
because it's natural.
It's testosterone isn't equal to toxic masculinity. That's what we're saying. Let's teach boys to not be DDT. Let's make them organic. Let's make them green. Let's make them more positive. Okay. Yeah. So.
Okay, well, that's insane, but you put a happy face on it, and I appreciate that. Cathy Areu, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Jordan Peterson is a professor at the University of Toronto, the author of the best-selling book 12 Rules for Life, and he joins us tonight. Professor Peterson, really simply, what happens to boys when you tell them that masculinity is toxic?
Well, I think you have to be a fool to tell them that to begin with. I mean, the first question is, why are we talking about toxic masculinity exactly? The crime rates in the United States and in North America more broadly have fallen by 50% in the last 25 years. That includes pretty much every category of violent crime. And so the term itself is terribly defined. I think it's appalling that faculties of education are pushing this sort of nonsense. And I think that if your kids are exposed to that kind of idiot social justice pseudo-education, that you should pull them out of the schools. So everything about the idea is ridiculous.
And pull them out because it does damage to them?
Well, because they're not being educated, they're being propagandized. There's also no evidence that we construct our identities as masculine and feminine by being expressly taught them by teachers. You know, that almost all that's learned by example to the degree that it's learned, and a tremendous amount of it is consequence of biological inclination. So the notion that you can fight something as ill-defined with toxic masculinity with badly designed educational programs and accomplish the end that you desire it's absolutely hopeless. That will never happen. All it'll do is further mess up an education system that's messed up badly already.
I don't want to call you out on live TV, but what you're suggesting is that the genders are biologically fixed, and we know that's not true because
no, they're not. They're not.
Facebook tells us
fixed.
It's not true.
Well, they're not biologically fixed. You know, I mean, people are quite plastic, and we learn things all the time. We can modify our behavior, but there are masculine and feminine proclivities. But it isn't even the issue of gender identity that's the issue here. It's the issue of whatever in the world toxic masculinity is supposed to be, and you can't even define it. I mean, if people are concerned about aggression and violence, well, as I said already, the rates of violent crime in the U.S. have fallen by 50% in the last 25 years. We're doing unbelievably well on that front. The streets are safer than they have been ever. That's a historical fact, and they're getting safer all the time. So where's the crisis? And why in the world would we turn the education of our children over to idiot ideologues? I mean, even the academics are waking up to this. There was an article in the Chronicle of Higher Education just 2 weeks ago excoriating the faculties of education for their appalling standards and their absolute ideological possession. And this idea that we should address toxic masculinity from K to 12 is just an extension of that.
Well, we put up with it because we're passive and weak. And I wish we weren't. Thank you for reminding us of that. Professor, thank you.
You bet. Very good talking with you.
Thanks. We'll be right back.